So, let's just start from the beginning, shall we? We open up and we meet our 10 Eternals, and, they show up. They're in Mesopotamia.
Wait. We open up to a text crawl.
Yes. Actually,
reminiscent of Star
true.
Wars.
Very Star Wars. That was very Star Wars.
I feel like that is important to bring up because it has been a long time since any movie other than Star Wars has had a text crawl at the start. And it's especially, the first time a Marvel movie has done that.
That's very true. Yeah, that's definitely a very old-fashioned thing. You used to see that a lot in, the 60s and 70s and, historical epics. You would get, a text scroll. And then, obviously, Star Wars did it. But other than that, you really don't see text scrolls in a lot of modern stuff. So that was very cool to see. And I think it was necessary as well, because even for people who are really in the know with Marvel, you're going to need to take a moment to introduce kind of the basic level of some of these concepts. Because, it's a lot to take in, and that's again for people who are MCU fans, people who are just casual moviegoers or little 12-year-old kids who just want to see the latest Marvel thing. They're gonna have no clue, So you have to onboard them somehow.
I disagree. I think it was very possible for them to have done show don't tell, especially when they reveal the deeper backstory, which is even more complicated than the initial text crawl. They could have shown, Arishem creating the Eternals, sending them to Earth, revealing their mission, all on screen.
But we're not meant to know yet that he created them.
Yeah. So some information could be omitted, but we can still see, because all of that stuff is also explained again in the movie later on.
Yeah, but it's explained at a point in the movie where it's already a 3-hour movie. Basically. So if you devote this time to just laying out the background info so that the plot can even begin, it's going to take up time, and I feel like with the Eternals already knowing their purpose and what they were made to do, or at least what they believe they were made to do, I feel like it's a lot more organic to just begin with the audience on the same level.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, just to build off what you're saying, Matthew, I think it's necessary because this movie is taking place so far outside of just historically what we understand about the MCU. Literally in terms of history, we're visiting time periods that really have not been explored in the MCU before. So you need to kind of give people a little bit of a primer before the movie even starts in terms of where we are, who these people are. Just like with Star Wars, that opening text crawl in A New Hope, it serves to, because sure, as people watch the movie, they'll understand, oh yeah, there's a galactic war, and there's an empire and a rebellion, and you've got these space wizards, the Jedi, and they're all they're supposed to all be dead, but are they really all dead? As you watch the movie, you'll understand that, but when you can just go into the movie at the start, just knowing the basics, it helps you understand a lot. Well, what's the significance of this smaller spaceship being pursued by this massive spaceship, and who's this menacing-looking guy in the black cape, and kind of what's going on here? What's the root of the conflict? I think it's kind of like that, where just having that basic, not everything, but that basic level of context up front is helpful, because, this is not a movie that's really, well, it is set in the modern day of the MCU, but also very much not. And for those parts that are not, you kind of have to go back and explain, well, here's how this fits into the bigger picture. That's my take on it. So yeah, we do get an opening text crawl, just a basic explanation of, here's what the Eternals are, here's, they've been sent by the Celestials to come to Earth to kill off the Deviants, and they're purportedly, from this other planet. I believe it's Olympia. Of course, as we later learned, that they're not actually from Olympia. They're not aliens, but they believe that they are. And and that's pretty much all we get until we are just arriving. Pretty much, they show up in 5000 BC in Mesopotamia, and Yeah, they arrived just in time to kill off a pack of deviants, so good on them, good timing, because the deviants definitely would have wiped out that entire village if they hadn't showed up just then. And it's cool because we kind of get to understand, we get a good upfront team action scene where we get to learn what everybody's ability is. I thought that was pretty cool. And yeah, for the first chunk of the movie, not the whole first act, but for a good chunk of the first act, we're just pretty much with them as they begin their existence throughout the various ages of the history of the Earth. And I have to say this, and this is something that will be recurring throughout the review, but I really loved the historical segments of the Eternals, and this is the one part where I'll say, just from a storytelling perspective and nothing else, I really do wish it was a Disney Plus series, because I wanted to get much more of the Eternals and their lives and existences throughout the ages. Matthew, you'll be able to appreciate this. Obviously we play Civilization, and it's so much fun because as you're moving throughout that game, you get to make your own history. You get to play out the history of the entirety of human civilization, and just do these cool what if scenarios and just kind of have these great long form experiences. And as a history buff, as somebody who loves that kind of stuff, I would have loved to have seen more of that. It was fascinating to watch the Eternals fight off the Deviants in ancient Babylon, and kind of watch the creation of the myth of Gilgamesh, which that was in. I don't know if you read that in high school, Reid. We read that at FVHS in 10th grade, I think it was. I still remember
yourself.
that. Yeah, I remember.
You were assigned to read it.
Yes, well, that's true, but it wasn't by choice. It was for English class. At least in my English class, we read. I forget what it's like, The Adventures of Gilgamesh and Enkidu, or something like that. It's one of the oldest mythical tales in human literature. This movie reminded me of reading that way back in 10th grade, and it was just fascinating. They go to the Gupta Empire. That was around that was still BC, I think, like around some 500 BC or so. And then we don't get to see a ton of them. We hear it mentioned a lot, their times in ancient Greece, and obviously how Athena became the legendary Athena, goddess of war. But we don't really get to see much of that, or any of it really. Also, we know they spend some time in Arthurian England, but historically they don't really pop up again until 1521 in the Spanish conquest of the Americas. And that was a really cool scene. I loved that. What did you guys think about that? When they supposedly kill off the final deviant?
A really cool scene. I'd love to get more into it as we go into the scenes with Druig's colony, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
His village. But I felt like it was because of the length of the film, it felt like this conflict had been brewing between them of whether to intervene or not, what's right and what's wrong. Mm-hmm. If they're really sent to do this, then why aren't they helping out other places?
Yeah.
And I felt like it wasn't what's the word? Forced isn't it, but the conflict between them wasn't forced and meaningless, just to split them up for a bit. And it was really cool seeing this arguably the strongest person for intelligent life who has been forced to not use his powers because it's ethically wrong.
Yeah. And
just run wild with it. And that was a really cool way to start the breakup.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, why give that power to one of your Eternals if you're gonna make them moral?
Yeah, if they're specifically not allowed to intervene, but you have the ability to control them.
And honestly, I feel like you could do a whole series of what if just on the Eternals, because there was a moment where it seemed like we might actually be going into like an alternate history, because Druig does stop all the Spaniards and the Aztecs fighting each other for a moment, and it's almost like, well, what if he did use this power to change the outcomes of more of these events? What if he did stop the Spanish conquest of the Americas? That would have been fascinating, you know? And obviously, eventually he does have to desist, except for the small group of people that he takes with him into the jungle. But, you know, you could do a whole what if just in terms of the alternate history scenarios that could play out within the context of the Eternals. Another great one, speaking of the humor in this movie, maybe the funniest single gag in the entire movie. I loved this so much. This was back in the Babylon scenes where Phastos, he's like coming up with these like inventions that he can give to humanity.
He came up with a steam engine.
It's still like 3000 BC or whatever. He wants to give them the steam engine. And Ajax has to tell him, "Oh, slow down there, big guy. You know, it's still a little early for that. Still a little early for the entire basis of the Industrial Revolution. Why don't So his solution is okay.
I'm gonna hook on a stick.
But
I'll give him a plow."
Here's the thing I don't understand is that, you know, they're ultimately, you know, they don't know this, but Arisham's grand design is that they, you know, help grow the population until it reaches this critical mass and the Celestial is able to emerge. Why would he instruct them not to intervene if ultimately he wants, you know, the population to grow?
Actually have a good answer for this one. Because it has to be intelligent life. It has to be a civilization that learns and grows as it goes. It can't be people who are relying on what I would say that if the Roman Empire had grown to such lengths, it wouldn't have been good enough because they were so theologically centered around the Eternals in Marvel. But instead, intelligence in the modern society is something that is not only valued but sought after. You want to go to college. You want to be the next Tony Stark. You want to show up all of the competition with what you can innovate, and just having a lot of people is needed for the giant celestial body.
Yeah.
And also, just that this isn't really an answer to your question, Reid, but what you said, Matthew, made me think of something. You know, there's a great kind of history nerd quote talking about the Roman Empire, which is that, you know, the Roman Empire didn't really fall; it just became a church. You know, like, you know, the Roman Empire is still with us today. It just became, you know, the Catholic Church essentially, and it's really the same thing with the Eternals. The impact that the Eternals had wasn't ephemeral. I mean, it did live on. They just became myths and legends and kind of all these things that we know today. And you know, but their contribution really was that if they didn't kill off the deviants, I mean, I don't know if the deviants really would have wiped out all of humanity, but they could have. I mean, like when you're talking about like 5000 BC, I mean, like they were the apex predators essentially. Yeah, they became themselves the apex predators. They were essentially like what would happen if dinosaurs and human beings had coexisted. Like, you know, they probably wouldn't have killed off all humans, but, you know, the human race would have had a tough time.
Again, disagreeing, because first off, two things on this. It's established that they specifically go after, they all went after the apex predators of the planet at first. And as they evolved and realized what the emergence was and what they were doing, they grew intelligent enough to realize, well, damn, I'm going to die anyways. Let's not let this happen. So, as a species, the deviants learned to specifically seek out intelligent life and put an end to it. That's why when the one that targets Cersei and Sprite at the beginning attacks, it's like, well, this one's different. It was going specifically after us Eternals, not just going after the intelligent life.
Yeah. And I completely agree with that theory for like the present day, but I think a much funnier idea is that they were designed to kill all the apex predators until humans became the apex predators, and then they went after the new apex predators, which was just the humans. And then Arishem was like, "Oh shit, I did not think about this long term."
That's true.
So then, number 2. Sorry.
That's all right.
What happens when they become too intelligent? Because as we saw with the main one, that I can't remember the name of, absorbing 2 Eternals was enough to give him complete human-like speech and reasoning.
Yeah.
Now, you could argue it's better, they have higher intelligences, but at the same time, Phastos and Ajax are the only ones that seem to be smarter than the rest of them. The rest just seem like normal people, mentally. Of course, getting rid of the powers.
Well, definitely Cersei and Ajax definitely have a leg up because they really can get the full scope of what's going on because they've spoken directly with Arishem. Icarus, he believes what he believes because essentially Ajax told him that was the way it was, and he just trusts that she's telling the truth. But yeah, I mean, all of the rest of them are just pretty much along for the ride, essentially, and learning new information as we, the audience, are. It really is just Ajax and Cersei who have that leg up in terms of, being able to really see what's going on because they've had that direct uplink with Arishem, I guess.
Yeah, I think for Crow kind of absorbing memories and developing this human intellect, I think the thing you have to keep in mind is that each of those memories was, over 7,000 years of lived life experience.
That's true.
On top of however many lifetimes the Eternals have lived. Because we know that the memories aren't really completely erased. It seems like they're just kind of... They're extracted, but internally it seems like they're just kind of pasted over, which is why Athena is like, suffering from mad worry because she's remembering this past life that wasn't like properly covered up. So it's possible that Crow is also getting those other lifetimes, and that's why after 2, he just becomes human. There's no reason why it can't be after 1 or after 3. I think it was just for some plot purpose that I still don't understand. Because my question for you guys is what purpose did he really serve?
Lesser threat to distract from the coming threat.
Well, that's the thing, is you'll notice that I have very pointedly not said anything about Crow yet. And that's because I want to talk about Crow in the climax. But I do have some thoughts on Crow. But you'll hear that from me very soon. But just to wrap up the historical context, really the only other historical vignette that we get from the Eternals is in 1945 when Phastos and Ajax are both at the site of Hiroshima. Sometime after the atomic bombing, not a long time after, but it makes sense since they're effectively, I mean, this is the spoiler section, they're effectively robots. They're not going to be affected by the radiation poisoning.
They're just chilling at ground zero.
Pretty much. And of course, Phastos is very moved because he's become disillusioned with humanity for some time now, at least since the 1521 scene. And he feels partially responsible for, or perhaps entirely responsible for, paving the way for humanity to get the technology necessary to unleash this mass destruction on themselves and on the planet. And so that's when he kind of goes into seclusion and just kind of leaves the rest of them behind and starts his own family and starts his own life. But that's it for the historical vignettes. Yeah, Matt?
No, I'm sorry. Not related to the historical vignette portion. But is this of course it is. This is another one of the first gay couples in a Marvel movie.
Oh, yes, that was huge.
This isn't like the ones in the hinted ones in Loki or the subtle ones,
or the like 3-second scene at the end of Star Wars.
Right. This was
that
legit.
Could be cut out for the China release. Yeah, I don't think this can be cut for.
Well, that's the thing is that
it could. You can cut out the whole scene. There's nothing.
But
that's the fact that it's like a full 3-minute scene.
that's the thing, though, that I have to give Marvel Studios a lot of credit, because that's exactly what Saudi Arabia and Russia and China wanted them to do. They wanted a cut of the movie with that relationship out, and they wouldn't do it. They would not take the scene out. So the movie is not playing in Russia. It's not playing in Saudi. I don't know if it's I know it's not playing in China, but that's not the reason why. The reason why is actually because Chloe Zhao had previously made some very disparaging comments about the Communist Party, and so obviously that's an immediate no-go. Honestly, I don't know that any of the MCU movies so far this year have played in China, because they've all had a situation like that where the CCP has said that, either the director or an actor or somebody has said something negative about the Communist Party, and so they just that's an immediate blacklist. So
Shang-Chi didn't play in China?
No, it didn't. And that was
Chinese culture-centric Marvel movie did not play in China,
and it was a huge upset. But yeah, no, it was because once again the director, I believe David Cretton or Dustin Cretton, or I'm forgetting his name, but it's
some kind of
Daniel something Cretton. He had also previously made statements critical of the Chinese Communist Party, and so yeah, Shang-Chi did not play in theaters in China. This is not playing in theaters in China. I don't remember if Black Widow played in China or not.
It almost certainly didn't play in Russia.
Probably not. Yeah, so that's two reasons why this movie didn't play in China.
I just want to say that you made me realize that right now in my hand I hold the power to get this show blackballed in China.
You do.
And
it is
all
an awesome
I have
power.
to say is, fuck the Chinese Communist Party.
Oh god, we're being canceled by China.
And now we're never gonna show in China.
Well, I'm sorry, Reid, but I'm afraid I've already beaten you to it. I've put that in the description of every video, so it's already been there. It's already been done.
Oh, I can't be associated with you, my acting career.
Yeah, no, I think all three of our social credit just took a big hit there. I think that's going to be a problem. But yeah, so I have to give Marvel Studios credit. They would not cut out that relationship, and so it's just not playing in those territories, which good. I mean, honestly, this is a whole other subject, but I think that we really need to start having a movement in the entertainment industry in this country where you're starting to see a kind of, not a hard censorship China style, but you're starting to see this soft self-censorship of like sports leagues like the NBA and movie studios and these various entertainment products who they will voluntarily cut stuff out or alter stuff or apologize if they run the risk of crossing the Chinese Communist Party, because obviously there's a lot of money to be made over there. Obviously we saw in that hilarious incident, that hilarious and slightly dystopian incident a few months ago with John Cena in the new Fast and Furious movie, where he was wearing some pro-Taiwan t-shirt, and he put out a video on Twitter apologizing in Mandarin to the Chinese people for wearing, not even saying anything, just wearing a pro-Taiwan t-shirt, or saying I don't remember what it was, but it was some pro-Taiwan thing, and he apologized in Mandarin for offending all of the Chinese people who never heard or saw what he did in the first place, because it was already censored over there. It was really just for the Chinese government, so the Universal Studios could say, hey, China, it's okay, we're good, he apologized, please show our movie, we want to cross $1 billion. And so, and you've seen it in the NBA in several notable incidents, so I think we need to start pushing back a little bit against this soft censorship for fear of, offending authoritarian governments overseas. I mean, it's sometimes principles, I know this is a shocking hot take. Sometimes principles are worth more than money, I mean.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm discovering, is that a lot of these corporate entities, like, their morals have a price.
Yeah.
It's usually in the several millions of dollars, but still.
Exactly. And that's why they make, when they do try to put these, we did have scenes like the one in The Rise of Skywalker, it's this super quick thing where it could be edited out super easily, so that,
yeah, or even it's just vague enough that it's like queer baiting, but they can just say, oh no, don't worry, China, this isn't actually gay.
Exactly. So I'm glad that didn't happen here. Anyway, tangent over. It was great to see that, and yeah, I'm glad they didn't, I'm glad they didn't cut that out to appease authoritarians in other countries. So
Yeah.
So where were we? So we're at ground zero, just kind of chilling.
yes, and this is actually one that I wanted to expand on a bit, because this is the first vignette that actually does take place within established Marvel canon. We know what was happening elsewhere during World War II in the MCU. So here's one speculative question. Or I should say speculative question number one. What was Phastos' involvement with the war effort? Because it certainly seems safe to say that he was probably working on behalf of the U.S. government, probably even helped them with, if not the atomic bomb per se, then probably the Manhattan Project and the science behind that. Do you think that he could have had some involvement with Howard Stark? Maybe even set Captain America up with that vibranium shield?
I choose to believe no. If it were Phastos, it would, as we saw back in Babylon, he would not have made a circle out of vibranium.
That's true.
I think that's pretty much it. He's far more mechanical than chemical, so I doubt he had anything to do with the super soldier serum. And I don't even... I think he introduced the ideas of playing around with atomic energy. But he didn't have anything to do with the Manhattan Project itself.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be my guess. It seemed to me like it was suggesting that, it wasn't because he had a direct hand in developing the nuclear bomb, but more so that he led humanity down this path of technological enlightenment, which led to the atomic bomb. And it was more about how humans chose to use technology in a harmful way rather than use it in a way for growth. And I think that's what made him kind of give up.
Well, here's my counterpoint, and it's a super circumstantial detail. But look, no disrespect to Howard Stark. He's a very smart guy. But in the first Avenger, we did see that there was a flying car. Like, he created this flying car. That seems like a Phastos move. I don't know. I feel like he'd be fascinated by creating a levitating car.
Well, we know that was based off his repulsor technology.
Of all the things, that if he had a hand in any of Stark technology, I think the only thing he would have done is the holographic projections for blueprints, because that's what he works with. So Tony Stark's all enhanced.
Yeah, very Minority Report.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think they're going to keep the achievements of Tony and Howard, especially now that both are dead, to themselves.
Yeah, fair enough, and yeah, probably for the best. But yeah, that's pretty much it for all the historical stuff. We may dip into it again as we move along, but jumping ahead to the present day, we meet up with Cersei and Sprite in London. So Cersei and Dane Whitman's relationship. Oh, hold on, sorry. Before we get to the present day, I almost forgot something super important. Another big first this movie achieved, a much hyped first, was the MCU's first official sex scene. And this was way back in the Babylon period of time. And I have to say, so much ink was spilled about the first MCU sex scene. And when it actually happened, it was laughably non-revealing and brief. Honestly, it was sure, it's a first, but
I mean, this is a PG-13 movie.
Yeah,
honestly, at the same time, I came with my 12-year-old brother. I know a family who came with an 8-year-old, a 10-year-old, and a 12-year-old. So it's not a big deal to us who are in college, but it is a big deal to the people who have expected family-friendly things from Marvel. And again, nobody I know is faulting them for it because it wasn't that revealing. But you could cut the tension in the air with a knife. In the theater.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying is it really didn't need to be there. It was kind of pointless.
That's true.
We knew that, like, we've already been told several times that Cersei and Icarus are in love. Honestly, I have to say, we had to be told that they're in love because it wasn't really clear. They didn't really show us that much that they're in love. Like, we know that they got married in India in the Gupta Empire, but the two of them never really had any chemistry.
Yeah, to me it just seemed like Icarus was like really aggressive,
Yeah.
and Cersei was
Yeah.
just kind of there.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is
It's
that
like she's standing admiring the view, and then he like walks up and is like towering behind her and like holds her hands from the outside, like he's gripping it, and all of a sudden they fall into the sex scene, and it's like,
exactly. Yeah, that's literally what it is. Icarus is in love. I don't know how Cersei feels about all this. She's just kind of, down for whatever, I guess. But, yeah, I mean, it was.
And then Icarus is still the one to leave later, and we're like,
It's like, yeah.
Oh, he hurt me. Oh, he didn't seem too into him. This might be a good thing.
Yeah, so, it's, so that was the MCU's first sex scene, and it may as well not have been there at all. I mean, it was, and because you're right, Matthew. I mean, obviously the MCU brand is such where, obviously you've got, super fans like us who are adults who would go to see these movies anyway, but, parents who are just bringing their little kids out. So obviously there's not much you can do.
But also parents brought their little kids to see Deadpool.
Well,
that's different. Deadpool's are. The same people I'm talking about know better. These are people who are like us, but they go to see the movies as a family. They follow the theories. It's different for an MCU film. Deadpool wasn't MCU.
I guess. I mean, it's still like a rating's a rating.
Yeah,
you should be following because like people are, there is a lot of violence and like people are getting killed all the time.
Yeah, but that's different.
Is it?
It's taboo. That's the thing. Violence isn't. Sex is.
Yeah, so I really just bring it up to say that for me at least, it seems like the MCU's first sex scene landed with a bit of a thud. It's it's there, it happened. We've checked that box.
Yeah, I don't want it to end. I don't want it to go any further.
Wait, no, I want to hang on to this conversation about the MCU's first sex scene.
Of course,
it was very disappointing.
This is what the viewers are here for.
Oh yeah. No, I'm taking over this podcast. You said it was very disappointing. What do you wish was your first MCU sex scene?
Me?
What do you think should have been the first MCU sex scene?
Okay, well, those are two different questions. So
I know you're thinking the Hulk, Jonathan. We all know.
Well, who isn't?
The Hulk's big green schmeat and Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, we could go on and on about that. So those are two different questions. So first you asked, why is it disappointing? To which I would say, I'm not saying it's disappointing. I'm just saying it didn't make an impact. It because it's an MCU movie and you're having literally it's supposed to be as mass appeal as possible, and you're supposed to be, attracting every kind of person to see this movie.
It was a very generic and like just implied, I guess.
Exactly.
That was it. It was the bare minimum.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm not saying it's disappointing. But it's just like, it's what else could anyone possibly have reasonably expected? So.
But what is your wish fulfillment?
But
what should it have been?
So that's part two. Is what should have been the first MCU sex scene?
Is this a question we need answered?
Yes.
Well, okay. Well, let me tell you where my mind goes. In the first two Iron Man films, Iron Man is he is a straight up playboy. Like literally in Iron Man 2, he meets Hugh Hefner. That's pretty on the nose. So I could see doesn't have to be with another name MCU character, but Tony Stark and Iron Man 2 days. Yeah, exactly. I could see them hooking up. Why not? That would make sense, right? So that would be my response for what should have been the first. But that's neither here nor there. We got our first MCU sex scene in this, and only so much you can do. So I'll say this about chemistry, where Cersei and Icarus didn't really have much of it. I I could get some chemistry between Cersei and Dane. I seemed like the two of them genuinely liked each other. We barely got to see them together, except we really just saw them in the beginning and at the very end. But yeah, it's like that's another thing where it's like if this was a Disney Plus series, we could see more of the two of them together, and yeah, just kind of what makes the two of them so good for each other. But yeah, they both work at the Natural History Museum, which is odd because there's like she teaches a class in a classroom, but it's in a museum. So is it also a school? I don't know.
Yeah, that was a little.
I was a little confused there, but I just rolled with it.
Yeah. But it's kind of cool because, of course, for someone who's been around, who has literally witnessed the entire history, well, at least the last 6,000 years of human history, so many of the artifacts that she works around every day are things that she probably personally had a hand in, or at least observed, including she gives a little knowing wink at Charles Darwin, which I thought was pretty neat. I think it was Darwin, right? When she's first
it was.
Yeah.
Which weird for anyone just attending the museum. She just walks in and talks to the statue.
And maybe she's just a big Darwin fan. Maybe she's just big into evolution. It's hard not to be. And so, yep, they get ambushed by Crow.
Oh wait, hold up! I just remembered. Wasn't she giving a presentation at the museum?
Yeah,
Apex Predator.
On Apex Predators, yeah.
So it's not a class; it's like a field trip kind of thing, and she.
I guess, yeah, maybe it's like a little learning area where visiting classes will come in to get a guided presentation.
Then she tests the fossil.
Yeah.
And no one seems to notice, which was nice.
It's like that thing was huge.
Oh yeah, so that's the other thing is that this is the first time we see. So there's these massive rolling earthquakes that are shaking the entire planet. And one of these earthquakes is it knocks it was like a big fossil off the wall, almost hits one of the school kids, and she transforms it just before it makes impact. And so they connect. Well, at first they don't really know what's causing these earthquakes, but they put the connection together that these earthquakes are happening and now deviants are popping up again. Maybe these two things are connected. We should go investigate. That's when they go over to South Dakota to meet up with Ajax, just to find that she's dead. I was shocked to see that.
Real quick, before we move on to Ajax, I want to talk about Sprite's powers. And
yes.
Sorry if I pause this a lot to talk about
no, it's all right.
because there's a lot of them, but they're cool. I really like that scene when she just makes mirror images of everybody.
Yeah, that was
they're
really
all
cool.
Just walking around.
Yeah.
Though, as opposed to Druig's power, which is useless because he's not supposed to intervene, I feel like hers is useless when her goal is to fight the deviants.
Yeah.
Yeah, illusory power, that can't really help much. And it's kind of, I get it's the point. It's kind of creepy that she's sneaking into bars as an aged up version of herself and still flirting and then running away because she knows she really shouldn't be there.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is that you really do feel for Sprite throughout this movie because it must be frustrating when you're literally at least 6,000 years old and people treat you like a child. Like, you've seen more than any of the people that you've ever known will ever see or have ever seen, and they are constantly literally talking down to you. Like, that has to be really frustrating. The same people who you were sent here to protect, you can't even get the respect of an adult from them. So that's got to be frustrating. But to your point, Matt, I mean, I think there is a role for it because, in a battle situation, it is good to have someone who can cast illusions and can distract the enemy so that your other team members who are more of the fighters can then press the advantage while they're distracted and disoriented. So also I can see the use of that. I
feel like y'all should just make a video in the future. It's a tier list video of all the Eternals powers.
We could do that. That's kind of my thought on what the use of that is. But we do see her several times cast some pretty cool illusions throughout this movie. So visually it was great.
And then again, before we move on to Ajax, we get to see Icarus again.
Yes.
Can't forget that. That's when he flies in, and he's a laser eye guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just feel like that's known. I forget, in the movie, had we actually seen that their scene in Babylon, I think it was, the sex scene? Had we gotten there yet, or was it this still being implied that there was a relationship?
Yeah, I don't think we've gotten to that.
That was after, because it jumps back and forth between these flashbacks.
I recall that. It was kind of weird to hear that banter before we got that context. It worked at a lot of other places, like seeing jumping to the Aztec invasion before we go to Druig's village. But here he rejoins, and it's supposed to be this big moment for them. I didn't really get that in the audience first viewing. It was just like, oh, there's the other guy. Yay.
Yeah, and I have to say this about Icarus. You know, people will, I mean, for obvious reasons, draw parallels between Icarus and Superman. And, you know, it's hard to argue that. But do you know who Icarus really reminded me of?
Superman?
Yes, Superman, but more than that, Homelander from The Boys. That's who Icarus really is, especially by the end of the movie. I mean, obviously not quite to those same comedic / just like sheer evil lengths, but in many ways he's very similar to Homelander, both in temperament and outlook, I guess, and obviously power set. I mean, they're both derived from Superman, but that's really who Icarus reminded me of throughout. You know, he's kind of like he's kind of like Homelander in that he's not as douchey, but he's very self-serious. You know, he's very kind of, you know, duty, and this is what we're gonna do, and I'm the leader, and I've got the moral responsibility and all this stuff, and kind of self-important. You know, I think that's really the main thing. He's very self-important. You know, I mean, you start to see a little bit of that from our first kind of scene with him here. But certainly by the end, you get more and more of that. He becomes more Homelander-esque. So certainly the way he kills Ajax, that's very Homelander-esque. I could definitely see Homelander doing something like that, killing a rival that way. So, yeah.
So when did you guys get the twist of him killing Ajax?
Honestly, it didn't occur to me until it was revealed.
Yeah.
Oh, from the first time we see it, his first line after seeing the dead body is just, "It was a deviant." Like, no shit, Sherlock. That's the only thing that can hurt you.
That's the thing is that
something's
looking
up
back
here.
on it. That's the thing is that looking back on it, it seems obvious. It didn't occur to me at the time, but looking back on it, yeah, it's definitely pretty clearly foreshadowed that even if it's not Icarus 100% did this, Icarus is definitely hiding something. He's got more going on than he's letting on. And, you know, don't really trust this guy. So they go over, Cersei and Icarus and Sprite, they go over to South Dakota, and they find Ajax's dead body. And, like I was saying, I was really surprised that they killed off Ajax. Like, that really surprised me. Like, you know, if for no other reason that it seems like I was just impressed by the ballsiness of getting an actress like Salma Hayek to come in and play this character, and she's really only in 3 scenes, and then she's dead.
But she flashes back a ton.
Yeah, I mean, she is in flashbacks, but you know, it's like, wow, okay, this is serious. You know, we're already down 1 Eternal. You know, and it was like a big name, a big name actress too. So that's. Like, okay, I respect the stakes of the movie now. So Cersei gets chosen as the next person who gets to commune with Arishem directly. And so this is really what I was talking about in non-spoilers. Why, from a storytelling perspective, yes, perhaps this could have been better on Disney+. For the scenes with Arishem, especially, you need to see it on that big screen, because, my God, I mean, the scale of this Celestial takes your breath away. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. Like, it's just the first time you see him, and it's even more so at the end of the movie. But even from the first time you see him and all subsequent times you see him, and any other Celestial, it's just it's mind blowing the scale of these things. It's hard to process just how big this guy is and how powerful this guy is. We're talking about like a Galactus essentially, and you're just like this human-sized android that has to like explain what you've been doing all this time to this massive, all-powerful entity. And it's like, that is why this movie has to be a movie that's seen in a theater, because that scale, it's just not going to feel the same on a television. It's just not going to feel the same on a computer screen or on a phone screen. So, when I talk about really being left speechless at various points in this movie, a lot of the reasons are because of moments like that, where it's just like, my God, this is, as if the MCU didn't have enough going on. Now you have these Celestials coming onto the scene. And, I mean, yeah, the scale of them just takes your breath away. It really does.
Yeah, I really love the way the Celestials were presented. And it just, that we'll definitely come back to this, but that final scene where, you see the clouds grow dark and start to thunder, and then they part, and all of a sudden you see this thing phase through the atmosphere. But crazy. It's still like, you can tell it's like looking in from outside the atmosphere, but it's like big enough and close enough that it's visible. And it's just like, holy fuck, that's
I know,
big.
Honestly,
how is anyone gonna fight that thing? So when it says "I will return on Judgment Day," like, someone's gonna have to fight that thing.
Yeah.
How?
Wouldn't it be funny if it just showed up and is like, "Hey, I reviewed the papers. You guys are cool."
Yeah,
you just left.
You'd have to do some paperwork.
That'd be funny if it showed up randomly in like one of the other movies. Like there's Civil War 2 or something, and like they're all fighting, and all of a sudden he shows up and you're like, "You guys are cool." And it's just like, "What the fuck is that?" And then it just disappears, and I'm like, huh.
Well, neat. Apparently we're cool.
I guess. Yeah, but I mean we know how big they can get, because if you remember in Guardians, Nowhere is this entire civilization that's built out of the hollowed out head of a fallen Celestial.
Yeah.
How often do emergences happen again? Isn't it like 1 billion years?
It's a long time.
Yeah.
Because it's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time. But why do they keep dying?
Well, that's the thing, is
we haven't seen many of them, but to my knowledge, they don't seem like the things that would age.
Yeah, I thought, it was my understanding that the one from Nowhere was killed, possibly by another Celestial. And it could be that they're not dying; they just want their population to continue growing. I mean, they see themselves as holy beings, and they want to spread their life through the cosmos so they can continue to create new life, which, they then consume to create more of their own. So it's kind of a moot gesture, but
yeah, and let's not forget, not all Celestials are the gigantic, armored up, robot looking guys. We also have Ego, who was a Celestial, and so
in name only, he earned that. He wasn't the same thing as a Celestial, but
same as like the Collector, the Grandmaster, right?
No, Ego was the living planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what are those guys called then? Because I thought they also
powerful dudes.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. There's some special name that they have. I'm forgetting.
Because they are called something.
Yeah, but Ego, I don't think Ego is a Celestial, a conventional Celestial. I think he is the exception.
He's a lowercase c Celestial, not an uppercase c Celestial.
So the Grandmaster and the Collector, they're the Elders of the Universe.
Elders of the Universe, okay.
I
But
always
that's not
assumed the
ego.
Collector was just a really influential guy. I didn't realize he was.
He is that too. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize he was ageless.
Mm.
I'm not going to call him immortal because he can clearly die. Also, is he canonically dead, or was that all an illusion by Thanos?
Well, I mean, I think we're to assume that he is canonically dead for now.
Okay.
Because, it was the illusion, but when the illusion fades, the entirety of nowhere is up in flames.
Yeah.
And pretty much everyone there is dead. So,
Unless maybe he was able to escape to Sakaar. Maybe.
Well, yeah, I mean, they can always, like, retcon it or just... Because, we don't see him die on screen in reality.
Because I would love to see... the Collector and the Grandmaster team up in Thor: Love and Thunder. I think that would be a really fun interaction. So, anyway, tangent, but yeah. So, I'm pretty sure Ego was a Celestial. He may not be the same kind, but certainly kind of on the same wavelength, I suppose. But anyway,
I'm glad you brought up Ego.
Mm.
Because I was going to touch on this at the end when Tiamat was emerging, but I like... Because Ego emerged alone as just this floating brain in space, and he had to go search for himself and find the intelligent life that bored him. He goes on to put his seeds on different planets to consume them and assimilate them into more of him. I wonder if he found Celestials and basically stole their idea and did that, because we only see his seeds emerging on other populated planets. So could all of the planets that he planted them on be Celestial eggs?
It's a very good point, because I mean the concept is essentially the same. So it is a very good question. I don't know, but at any rate, so this is around the time in the movie where we're introduced to what's really been going on. So the Eternals, they're not aliens from the planet Olympia. They're essentially created by Arishem to pretty much do what we said already, which is they go to these planets to wipe out the deviants, to allow intelligent life to flourish, so that they can reach the critical mass and a new Celestial can emerge. So I mean, it's a little bit reductive to just call them robots, but they are artificial, intelligent life forms that are given these powers.
They're visions.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, and they're this group of Eternals isn't even the same group that's been sent to previous planets. Every time they go to a new assignment, those Eternals obviously get wiped out with the planet, and a new group gets sent to the next planet, and so on and so forth.
Are they?
Well, it seems like it, because as we see in the mid-credit scene, there are entirely different Eternals for different planets.
Yeah, but I think, the Eternals do get reused. Like they get their memories wiped and then they get sent on. So I think there's just multiple teams of Eternals.
Sure,
because that's why their memories get wiped and replaced and all that.
Yeah,
They're the same. It's like Ajax said, her memories will be gone, but Thena will still be there. They're the same people.
Yeah, I guess so. And so here's one of the big things that we need to address. The only reason that this emergence now in the modern day of the MCU is possible because the blip was reversed. When all the population came back, we were essentially on the cusp of being ready for the emergence. And once the blip was reversed, there was 7 days to emergence effectively. And so a lot of the MCU discourse, the movies come out, has been, well, now maybe we start to see more of the point that Thanos was trying to make. Because as we've seen, again, via the mid-credit scene, his own planet, Titan, also had a celestial seed implanted in it. And the only reason that it didn't emerge and destroy the entire planet was because the population had already died out, essentially, due to ecological collapse. And so Thanos, who has this, well, again, we'll talk about it in the mid-credit scene, but obviously he's aware of what the Celestials' grand plan is. And maybe he really was trying to spare the many other planets that have also been seeded with a Celestial, the same fate that his planet almost did, and probably what he's aware of the fate other planets have reached by snapping half the population away, setting the clock back, giving the universe more time to recover, and then maybe doing it all over again. Did Thanos have a point?
I don't know, because in all of his reasoning, he stated that it was about resources and overpopulation, not that, when any planet reaches critical mass, it'll explode. I mean, that is like a very specific prediction, omen.
But at the same time, it's the same outcome.
It's the same outcome, but that doesn't mean that it was his plan all along. I think it's more of a coincidence. But he suggested some level of genocide on his own planet. They called him a madman, and his own planet ended up using up all the resources and then dying due to overpopulation. He was like, oh shit, other planets are going to do the same thing. I don't think he knew about the celestial seeds or the emergences, because otherwise, I think he would have been saying like, oh, this isn't about resources. If you get too many people, your planet will explode.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different warning, different kind of mission.
I agree. Well, his own planet was while his own planet was brought down by ecological collapse, I don't think he was aware of the seed in his planet. If he was, then I don't think he would have gone on this whole Infinity Stone thing in the first place. Because if he had the resources to, all he would really need is the Space Stone. He can go around warning planets, saying, "Hey, just telling you, if you get too much, your planet's going to explode." Then from there, if they listen or not, that might bring him more extreme. But I don't think it would have jumped straight to population control.
Yeah,
like forced population control.
Yeah, but it's a good point. But here's my counterpoint. What would the knowledge practically do? Like if Thanos came to Earth, right, and said, "Hey, everybody, once you reach 7.4 billion people or whatever it is, your planet's going to explode because a gigantic alien robot is going to emerge from the core of the Earth and kill everyone instantly." And let's say everybody took him at face value. Everybody believed him 100%. Does that mean that people just stop reproducing? I mean...
I think you leave it to the planet to decide what to do. The issue is... Can we just get this on the table that Thanos isn't justified? That was not a good thing. He did a bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
He committed a murder. A big murder, and that's bad.
And to do that, you really got to be entrenched in those beliefs. And I don't think that he would have misrepresented what he thought. If this is his mission statement, I think that's why he's doing it. I don't think he cared about the Celestials at all. It might have been a happy byproduct of what he wanted to do. But I think this first and foremost thing was to prevent what happened on his planet happening everywhere else.
Oh, that's fair enough. And to be clear, I'm not a hashtag Thanos truther. It's interesting because, this movie now really introduces a different angle to look at the events of Infinity War and Endgame because, it is fair to say that, if the blip had been left to stand, then the emergence, we wouldn't, obviously, Eternals notwithstanding, we wouldn't have had to have worried about an emergence for a long time to come. So it is just interesting to think about.
The one thing I am curious about actually is that during the snap, did that also erase half of the Celestials?
This
Or
was that leads into a question I was going to ask at the very end, which I asked my family is, do the Celestials bleed? Can you, first off, before you even go, can you kill them? Can you harm them? These things look like they're made of wood or something similar.
I mean, they look like they're made of stone and metal.
Yeah, so are they alive?
Well,
I mean,
we know you
if
can
they've
kill
existed-
them because
And if they existed pre-Infinity Stone, then they exist outside the laws of the universe.
Well, now we're getting into like TVA territory and all that stuff.
Well, I'm not going timeline, but I'm just going. They existed before the six singularities, meaning they already don't fall under the purviews of time, space, or reality.
Or that just means that their armor is so tough that they can withstand an explosion the size of the literal birth of the goddamn universe.
Yeah.
You know, they could just be hovering around in the vacuum
What
of
if this
space.
is a
and then
Wizard
Big
of
Bang.
Oz situation? There's just no.
Like the
celestial.
they're actual like giant robots.
Yeah, they're just giant puppets, and it's all King the Conqueror.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing is that we know you can kill a Celestial because as we were talking
That's
about
right,
earlier,
nowhere.
Yeah.
He's
But
got
the
spinal
question
fluid.
is-
That's what they harvest there.
But the question is, what can kill a Celestial? Because
Well,
you would
other
need
Celestials.
other Celestials.
And
Me.
presumably some of the Infinity Stones. I mean,
Hmm.
we saw one of the collectors like
Holograms.
Yeah, we see one of the Celestials wielding the Power Stone, and he just wipes out a planet.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that a planet is essentially a celestial egg. So
Yeah, some planets
They-
are.
they
Not all
could
planets, of course, but
yeah,
some.
yeah, the ones that have the seed implanted in the
Yeah.
fertilized eggs. So the Power Stone could have, probably wiped out a celestial. Who's to say what all of the Infinity Stones, but it also doesn't matter because they are, atomized. So
Oh, did someone say atoms? Let's bring in Fastos. He knows how to wield those.
There you
Ooh,
go.
yeah.
Just kind of moving quickly through the second act. Basically, we're just spending the second act just getting all the Eternals together, figuring out what's going on. Again, Kingo and Karun, fantastic. Love those guys. Karun, heart and soul of the movie.
Oh, yes.
Honestly, yeah.
So
he's
we
fantastic.
got this normal human guy who
Mhm.
apparently has a family,
Mhm.
deeply entrenched in his faith,
Mhm.
constantly records everything, has several backups on him from no discernible location,
Very good at his
is
job.
unbelievably loyal to this person. He knows is special, and he understands this. What do you guys think of the theory that he's a Skrull for Secret Invasion?
Ooh. I could see it, but I hope he isn't. I hope that Karun is 100% true to himself. And
Yeah, I feel like
is,
that would make him less funny.
Yeah,
Because he's also not really in a position of power there.
No Skrull ever is. They're always next to the people in power.
Yeah, but Kingo doesn't have any political power, is what I'm saying.
No, but he's got
feel like
cultural power.
I guess, but he makes movies. Plus, let's be
You're
real.
telling me if Ryan Reynolds came out and told you to do something, you wouldn't do it.
Hey, I have not bought Aviation Gin or Mint Mobile, so
Yes.
that point is already that's a fallacy. But no, because let's be honest, the Secret Invasion is just gonna take place in the U.S. Maybe
so?
London. Yeah. Most likely. I mean, that's where the majority of the MCU is based right now. So personally, I don't see him being a Skrull. Plus, I feel like if it turned out he was one, in hindsight, he would then
It would
be
kind of take
less,
away from
he would be less funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope he isn't, but I think there are a few characters in this that could be. Let's see, in terms of who would be a good Skrull candidate. Okay, actually, yeah, maybe there aren't that many human characters.
Yeah.
in the Eternals.
Wouldn't it be messed up if someone in Druig's colony was a Skrull and he just has to check in all these years later?
But that's the thing, is that, well, I don't. Maybe
Can
Druig wouldn't
Druid
care.
control all?
You can
beings,
control
or-
intelligent minds.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess they could control.
So if you're stupid enough, you're immune.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and this is actually, the writers said that if there was going to be a follow-up Disney Plus Eternal series, one idea they would love to explore is following Kingo's full Bollywood career from the 1890s throughout, like, the Indian independence through the present day. I think that would have been hilarious if they did a Disney Plus series on that.
I loved his family lineage.
Yeah, he just keeps reinventing himself.
Just do a Kingo solo episode.
Honestly, just exploring.
It's just like a filler episode. It's like the beach episode, but it's just Kingo and his movie career, and that's it.
Just each of his movie careers. Like, I'd love to see that. Yada yada yada. We move on to Druig's colony in the Amazon, which that was really cool.
Wait, hold up. We skipped Gilgamesh and Athena.
Oh, sorry. Yes. We go over to the Australian outback where Gilgamesh. So Athena, she's been kind of suffering from this condition called mad weary. She's getting these memories back to one of their previous missions, which itself lasted thousands of years, where the planet did experience a successful emergence and everyone died. And she's having these recollections back to this mission, and it's driving her understandably a bit crazy. So yeah, she lashes out and attacks the Eternals in 1521, and Ajax proposes that they wipe her memory. That's kind of the policy of what to do in this situation, but instead of that, Gilgamesh volunteers to take her to a place where she can't hurt anybody. He can keep an eye on her and keep her from causing any damage. So they go to the Australian outback, or at least that's where they end up. They probably didn't go there at first, but that's where these the two of them have just been hanging out, kind of waiting everything out, and they have a nice little family reunion. That's the thing that we've seen all throughout the Phase 4 MCU films. We have to have a family reunion dinner scene at some point. We had it in Black Widow, we had it in Shang-Chi, and we have it here in this. Not a full family reunion, of course, because we still haven't met up with Phastos or Makari or Druig. But we have, what would that be? It would be 6 of the remaining 9 are there. So yeah. So yeah, it's good. It's nice. They talk a little bit about the Avengers. Icarus volunteers to lead the Avengers. We got that gag in the trailer already, so it didn't have as much impact actually in the movie. But it would be nice to see him try.
What a pompous ass Icarus is.
Yeah, well, it's as we see by the end, he's really not set up to be that likable. Yeah. But especially considering, like, it's this is why I really love to rewatch this movie, is because when you go back and rewatch it and watch how cool Icarus is playing it the whole time, knowing that he murdered Ajax and is just counting down the days until everyone on the planet dies, including the other Eternals, like, that's kind of chilling, isn't it? Like, this is a guy who's willing to do whatever it takes to ensure that the planet ends. That's pretty crazy, and he's just hanging out, acting like he's part of the team, just playing it cool. Richard Madden, I gotta say, I think he played it very well. It wasn't the full Homelander, but it was close, especially when you kind of look at the psychology behind it. And so, yeah, they go to the Amazon to meet up with Druig and his colony. That was a cool scene, just seeing how he gives these people autonomy, but only up to a point. When he needs them to do what he wants them to do, they do that thing. And this is where they get ambushed again by some of the deviants. Crow manages to kill Gilgamesh. And it seems like, I mean, maybe I'm misremembering it, but I mean, it seemed like really Gilgamesh more sacrificed himself in that moment than truly got killed by
I mean, yeah, because he was
Crow.
trying to protect Thena, who
Exactly.
was
Yeah.
like having a mental break.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I mean, I think that if that were just a straight up one-on-one fight, I don't really think Gilgamesh goes down. That's just Gilgamesh by himself.
That was the other thing.
forgetting
It
the other
wasn't
Eternals.
even a one-on-one fight. There were like 3 of them
Mm.
that cornered him, while
Yeah,
he
what-
was also trying to deal with Thena.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. So, but yeah, so they let Druid in on what's been going on, and they propose that one way they could stop the emergence is maybe Druid could try to mind control Tiamat, but even Druid concedes that he doesn't have enough power to mind control a Celestial all on his own. So they say, okay, well, we've got to go see if maybe Phastos can think up something for us. So they come back up to there's a lot of globetrotting in this movie. Another thing that I actually appreciate. They go to Chicago, where Phastos has started a happy home life with his husband and son, and yeah, he's resistant because he doesn't want to get dragged into all this. He just wants to have his family and have his life, and he wants to be there to protect them in case anything happens. And he kind of turned his back on all this after they show us Hiroshima really as the turning point, but I think it's really been building for a while. He'd really begun to resent what the human race had done with many of the technological advances that he had been nudging them towards. But he realizes that, hey, if we don't do this, then everyone is going to die. So, he joins the team. Then they go back to Mesopotamia in the present day. And, yeah, they unearth their ship, which, when they landed the Domo, it was like over a body of water, wasn't it? But when they raise it up out of the ground, it's surrounded completely by desert. So maybe that's another statement on what the human race has been doing for the last 6,000 years.
I mean, I'm sure they've moved the Domo several times, because every time we check in on them in a flashback, they're in like a different part of the world. I don't think they're traveling everywhere by foot.
You don't think Makari's just carrying them around?
Or Icarus flying them there?
Or Phastos invented something?
I mean, why wouldn't they take the ship? It can cloak itself.
They
it can
don't
turn
want to
invisible.
intervene, and as humans get more advanced.
It can turn in. We see when it first arrives on Earth, the ship is invisible. And
that's true.
Uncloaks.
I don't know why, but it hasn't moved, because when it's emerged, you see the Babylon painted ruins fall beneath it.
Hmm. Huh.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It seems like you definitely wouldn't want to be moving the ship around to all these different places, just because even if it was cloaked the entire time, it could still be. I mean, I know it sounds kind of stupid, but somebody could bump into it. It could be discovered, and that could itself become like have you ever seen 2001: A Space Odyssey? It would be kind of like that, if the human race discovered that and it set them off on this whole other path,
Yeah.
And so that would kind of be a form of intervention in and of itself. So I don't feel like it moved. Maybe it did, but if they had moved it, then why would they put it back where they first landed it? Is kind of my question. But Makari is there. And that's pretty much how we get our full roster. Of course, Gilgamesh is already dead at this point, so we've only got 8 Eternals left. The emergence is happening. There are these earthquakes that are happening all over the world. It's pretty much, this is it. So the epicenter of the emergence is this small archipelago in the Indian Ocean. And so they go over there. And at this point, Icarus has already revealed what his true intentions are. Sprite, who was in love with Icarus, goes with him. And, it pretty much sets up our final showdown in the Indian Ocean. So, I mean, it was pretty cool, I think it was pretty funny how Druig just brained Sprite with that rock. I think that was pretty cool. I got a laugh out of that. Okay, so let's talk about Crow. Now that we're in the climax.
Yeah.
So Crow, after he kills Gilgamesh, he just kind of runs back off into the jungle like a little bitch. and honestly, he should have just stayed that way, because like when he shows up to the final battle, it's like, come on.
Why?
Dude,
it's
over.
What purpose are you serving right now? To like
honestly, like, do you know what it reminded me so much of? It reminded me of Jan Rog in Captain Marvel. It's like, by the end of the movie, the power levels that we're dealing with and the situation that we're dealing with is so laughably far above you, that there's no point. Nobody gives a shit. Like, it's over. I'm sorry, Crow. Like what are we doing here? Just there is no place for you. One Eternal, like a Gilgamesh, I'm pretty sure could kill Crow on his or her own. But a bunch of them working together, Crow is dead instantly. As we see, it only takes one Eternal to kill him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, just get out of here. Like, honestly, I'm not joking. I'm really serious. If after Crow kills Gilgamesh and makes his point about how the Deviants and Eternals really aren't that different after all, and they were both essentially sent here to serve the same purpose to the same end, and if he just leaves, then okay, that's fine. Point made.
He can return later in a
exactly.
Sequel. Or they kill him right there, and it's like, okay, this is clearly like they've dealt with one threat, now they're moving on to the next.
Exactly. Like, honestly, he had made his point at that point. There is no need to come back and try to have a final showdown. What does he think is gonna? Does Crow really think that he could kill a pack of the Eternals working together? Does he really think that?
I mean, he can heal himself, and now he has Gilgamesh's gauntlets, so I think he assumes he's just going to be able to pick them off one by one and gain their powers, but...
And, okay...
he just gets diced up, like, out of a scene from The Cube.
I don't understand why he didn't go for Icarus. First off, strongest Eternal. He could totally trick him and make him think, oh, I'm on your side now. If you're stopping the Celestial, that's my only goal. Ha ha ha. And then if he can absorb Icarus behind their backs, he's now actually unstoppable.
Yeah.
Maybe. But yeah, I mean, it's the thing is that, yeah, I mean, it's just, I suppose, okay, so let's assume that is what he was thinking. I've got the healing ability, I've got the super strength, now I'm in a position to pick them off one by one, even though they're all clustered in the same area working together, at least most of them are. But even if we accept that as true, let's say, sure, he does kill all the Eternals, mission accomplished, Tiamat emerges, the Earth is destroyed, everyone is dead, including him. So, what does he achieve?
He's strong.
He made a point and died anyway, like everybody else. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Crow is, if we accept the premise that he is the principal villain of this movie, he's laughably weak. Laughably weak. I mean, I loved this movie, but that's one thing I have to say. Crow, this is not a Crow movie.
No, but okay. Benefit of the doubt, best case scenario. If he picks them off one by one, he's got the healing ability, and he doesn't need to breathe in space if he gets Icarus. He can leave the planet.
and just be like this sad space cowboy.
Well, I mean, if they're drawn to intelligent life or other Eternals, he could have been the repeated villain like Loki was, but for the cosmic playing MCU characters. I got real Ultron vibes from him.
I wouldn't even say that. I mean, like, he truly was one of the worst villains if not in the conversation for the worst MCU villain we've ever had. Like it's rough with Crow. Like the threat of the movie is great. The Celestial emerging, that's epic. But as a villain, I mean, it's really tough to think of a worse one. It really
Honestly,
is.
Part of me feels like it's also partly due to how unceremoniously he dies. Too. He dies in such a comedic, slapstick way for what was supposed to be a very intimidating, creature turned smart human. Oh no, now he's gonna be like tough to kill, and he's like just as smart as us.
Why didn't he just kill Thena?
And then he like walks into a cave with the woman who can summon weapons at will and is good at like close quarters combat, and he's like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah, like why didn't he just like, okay, he's got her in the cave, he's got the element of surprise. Why does he have to make a speech? Why do they always have to make a speech? Just kill her immediately. You need her powers to even stand a chance against a collection of the other Eternals.
Yeah.
Why does he have to? Again, he's so preoccupied with making the point he already made the last time we saw him.
To this person.
To the same person. We understand. If he had just killed her immediately, okay, now we have a conversation, because now he's got Ajak and Gilgamesh and Thena, so he's got the healing, the super strength, and he's the weapon master. But again, I mean, like, he has Thena restrained, he's in total control of the situation, and he still gets killed. I mean, it's just like, yeah, I mean, I'm really thinking about it. It's very hard for me to think of a weaker MCU villain. It really is.
I mean, the only like weaker villain would be like when we thought the Mandarin was Trevor Slattery.
Like Yanrog comes to mind.
Ronan.
Say again?
Ronan, exactly. You don't even remember him. Blue Kree guy from Guardians.
Oh yeah. Well, Ronan, who was Ronan was a better villain in Captain Marvel than Yanrog was, and Ronan just pretty much showed up, got his ass kicked, and then left again.
He didn't even get his ass kicked. All of his men got their asses kicked, and
He
was like,
them.
"I'm coming back."
Like,
for
I'm
that
thinking,
weapon for that woman.
like Whiplash had cool whips. Like that's cool. Like Ghost, Ghost wasn't even really a villain by the end of the movie. Like, she's just misunderstood. Yeah. Like the extremist guy from Iron Man 3. Like it wasn't that he was weak. He was just lame.
Could be Thor's arch nemesis, Noob Slayer 69.
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, he's awesome. That's the thing. Was that? Yeah,
he's great.
He is a good villain. Actually.
Yeah, he's the top Fortnite. He's the top Fortnite icon. You've got Ninja, and then you've got him. I really like it's bad. It's rough. It's really rough. But Yellow Jacket, he's got the suit, and he's got all the same Ant-Man powers. So like that opens up a lot of opportunities. Like, I was
Plus
thinking
the fight sequence with Yellow Jacket was really good.
Exactly, yeah. Like, if you think about it, like, he can do everything Ant-Man can do. Plus he's got lasers. So
and can fly.
And he can fly. So that's a lot of weaponry right there.
In hindsight, how did Ant-Man even win?
Well, he cheated. It's very simple. Life is so much easier when you cheat. Yeah, I mean, like the Destroyer from Thor 1, like, at least that was he's a big robot dude. He's pretty scary. Honestly, I think he might be the worst. I think that
even worse than Killmonger. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, you bastard.
Yeah, I truly think that. I truly think I'm reviewing all the MCU movies. I can't think of a less impactful villain than Crow. Like, he really is the worst.
Yeah, Abomination.
Yeah, but Abomination is he's super strong. He's got all the Hulk stuff. Like,
you can't say that about Kroll then.
Yeah, but like Abomination is not as lame as Crow.
What about the Hulk versus Thaddeus Ross?
Well, Thaddeus Ross is like a super powerful like politician guy, so like.
Well, he was like a war general in that movie.
Exactly, like he's like this military general, politician, like the single biggest reason the Civil War happened. Like he's cool, yeah.
Oh, that's the same guy?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
I was thinking, when did Hulk 1v1 the Civil War guy?
Now that would have been a very different third act.
Yeah.
A much shorter one. Yeah, I think he's the worst. It's really rough. I can't think of a worse one.
And yet you still gave this movie a 9 out of 10. Talk to me about that.
Because that's the thing, is he's so lame and he's so low powered relative to the stakes of the third act that you can ignore him. Like honestly, he may as well not be there, and it barely takes away from
that should detract the quality though.
Well,
if they have this wasted character.
I didn't give it a 10 out of 10. I gave it a 9 out of 10. And okay, maybe the 9 is too bullish. Maybe I could be talked down to an 8. But I'm not saying it's a perfect movie. You know, it's not a 10 out of 10. But it's still very good.
I understand he wasn't that important when he came in. But through the whole movie, he created a sense of tension of the, ooh, when's he gonna show up kind of thing. And I know I'm being silly with how I say it, but I think that was his point. There was, aside from having to solve this problem of the Celestial emerging, before the twist happened, it was really just a figure it out game. With him in the picture, it gives some kind of tension that they're being hunted still, and that's the threat. By the time he comes back in the climax, maybe it's a little late. No, it's almost definitely a little late.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
His purpose wasn't the fight of the climax, but rather the time in between.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that when Crow was cool was when we still thought this was a murder mystery, like you were saying. When we actually genuinely thought he was the one who killed Ajak, when we see him kill Gilgamesh, that's when it's cool, because like you were saying, you're wondering, well, when is he going to show up? Who's the next Eternal he's going to target? If he really did kill Ajak on his own, then this is a dangerous guy. When it's still a murder mystery, that's when he's cool. And again, when he shows up in the Amazon village and he, explains his whole backstory and what his deal is, again, he's made his point at that point. He killed Ajak, he killed Gilgamesh, he explained to the Eternals that they're not so different from the Deviants they've been hunting for thousands of years. So, murder mystery, point made. Whether he gets killed in the Amazon or just leaves and doesn't come back, then he's not the worst MCU villain ever. Then he's just fine. He's whatever. You know? It's the fact that he does come back is what completely spoils any appeal he may have had, because him coming back in that moment really is just laughable. Like, honestly, you could change nothing else and just have him not return for the third act, and then he would have been just fine and forgettable.
Also, I just want to say that he was really ugly and uncomfortable to look at.
Yes.
Oh,
basically,
real?
As soon as he evolved into his human form, I was like, this guy's gross. I don't want to see him anymore. And then he returned for the finale, and I was like, ugh.
I wanted more screen time for him. I loved the way he looked. I thought that was really cool.
And also,
I feel like they should have kept some of the beast features. I think it was like the four eyes was interesting, but then he had like human lips. It was just
what do you want him to have? Duckbill? Probably you do.
No, give him like a bony deer skull snout.
That would be cool.
What, skinwalker?
Make him look like a Wendigo or something. Not just like Vision, but like biological.
I liked that aspect of it, because he's the whole thing of them is they absorb and assimilate the best parts of everything they kill.
So clearly Gilgamesh's lips were
hey, those are all Ajak. But you're gonna, if everything on the planet has been built for this super spread out species, wouldn't you want to be able to traverse it like that species would?
I suppose.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying the human form is bad. For me, it was like the face was just really ugly and uncomfortable to look at from
Yeah,
like
and
a
also,
character design. I feel like it was a little. They should have made it more human or less human, but
yeah.
where it was
I
just
thought it
kind
was
of
a sweet
nasty.
spot, and I think we can all agree that you're in the wrong, and we can.
Your
And
opinion
also-
is bad, and you should feel bad.
and also, I should mention that Crow is played by Bill Skarsgård, who also did Pennywise in It and It Chapter 2.
He has
So,
the perfect last name for those roles.
well, I suppose so, and you know, but honestly, you couldn't tell. Like, you know, I mean, it was 100% CGI. It was just the voice essentially, and so, yeah, I mean, he did a great job as Pennywise, of course, but kind of wasted here. Like, honestly, he could have been played by anybody. So, yeah. Anyway, they formed the Unimind. Except for Kingo, he's not there because he left because he didn't want to fight Icarus, but he did also, you know, he didn't want to get involved, so he left.
Yeah, he was like, I still believe in Arishem.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, and I, you know, the one good part about I've felt weird having like one of the core members of the group just like walk away from the finale. But having him leave with the comedic relief character at the climax was a good decision.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that was something that Jess had said after we watched it. That was like having him removing that kind of comedic element so you can maintain the seriousness of the finale was a good choice.
Definitely. And yeah, just as Tiamat is emerging, Cersei is able to use the power from the Unimind to turn Tiamat into marble, which was actually foreshadowed earlier in the film when she's explaining her powers to Karun. Basically, she was just saying, she was making these analogies for what she could turn things into, and everything she turned things into just became a rock. And it was kind of a lame example. Of course, looking back on it, it seems obvious. By the third act, she's going to turn something important into a rock. And she did.
I mean, she did also, like, yeah, she explained that really badly, but of all the powers that the Eternals have, I think hers is the one I would like to have. Because of how creative you can get with it. I love that scene where she turns part of the tree into water, so it starts to fall, and then she turns the trunk into like this giant steel beam that just crushes one of the deviant. Like, that was so cool, and that was like a really smart use of those powers.
Yeah, that's actually a good question.
It was very versatile.
What would be the best Eternal power to have?
I mean, Bakari's speed for me. I mean,
yeah, or like just being able to fly with Icarus.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even want to fly. I
don't want to fly?
Nah, I want to be able to go things fast.
Actually, I would take flight. Yeah, I would go with Icarus. I would take the flight. And the laser eyes are just a perk, but I would take the flight. Yeah.
Look, if I can fly, that's all good. But I can write a paper in like 3 minutes if I can go fast.
Yeah, or yeah, you could just become Fastos and just you could just become the professor.
But wait.
Why don't I just be smart?
But here's counter argument. You can become a literal alchemist and just pick up any rock you find in the woods and turn it into solid gold and then pawn it off.
That's true.
Inflation
rinse and repeat. Yeah, but inflation from one person.
Yeah, I think we can all agree we've got enough inflation these days as is. You know, we don't need to start introducing rock to gold.
Here's the other thing, is that you take other people's money and then you turn it into like rock or something, so it becomes worthless, and then you balance out the inflation.
Oh yeah, that's good. We should send you to the treasury. You've got some ideas.
Or maybe we don't, because you will turn all of it into rocks.
Yeah, it's a real King Midas situation. It becomes a curse. Yeah, no, I think I would take flight. That's a good question though.
I think we can all agree nobody would want Kingo's finger guns.
Well, yeah, because how many everyday situations is that going to be useful in? Like, you know, it's the same thing with, you know, Gilgamesh's super strength. Like when you're moving, that'd be all right. You know, you could get through those boxes no problem. But other than that, like, how many situations really do you need super strength?
Well, apparently he can farm really well and make the saliva wine. That's pretty cool.
That's true.
I don't think that was through his powers, though. I think he just did that.
Or like Thena's weapons, like, you know.
Yeah.
That's a cool party trick, but other than that.
Does it have to be weapons, or can she make like a lawnmower?
I think
it's got blades.
I mean, she could make like a scythe.
That's true.
She could probably make a plow, maybe. I don't know if she collabed with Fastos.
yeah, the two of them should really work together on that, because you know, honestly, if you would ask me, I would have said that Fastos already has the plow department well covered, but you know, I'm sorry, I really did find that funny. Fastos just wants to give, like, again, what if series just on that? What if Fastos went ahead with giving the humanity the steam engine in like 3000 BC? What would have happened?
Well, it's the same. What if we never had the Christian Dark Ages? We'd be in the same place, basically.
Well, that's the thing, is that, you know, one man's Dark Ages is another man's Golden Age. You know, look at what was happening in China. Look at what was happening in the Middle East. So
that's fair.
You know, it's but I would love to see that what if series. Like, you could seriously do a whole what if season just based on these Eternals what ifs. But yeah. So anyway, again, we've already talked about it, but, you know, the scale. You know, when Tiamat is emerging, again, my breath was just taken away. Like, it was just, what the fuck? Like, is this really like, honestly, it's to the point where it's like, this has to be it. Like, it's not like he's about to emerge. He is emerging. Like, this feels like the end of the world. It really does. Like, even if...
Yeah, I thought they were gonna, like, end it with, like, maybe the like a couple of the fingers are peeking out of the ocean.
Yeah.
And, like, so it just becomes like a couple of new rock islands, nothing that major. But no, it's like most of the hand and part of his head.
Exactly.
And
yeah,
it's like now that's just a permanent feature of the landscape on this Earth in the MCU.
And it's not just that, but I mean, remember, this thing formed the core of the planet, part of which is now outside of the planet. So that has to have some sort of effect, right? I mean,
there are just a few more valleys now, and it's all of the Earth.
Yeah, most of South America has now.
Yeah, I did feel like they glossed over the
geological implications of all this.
Yeah, but also like the earthquakes earlier in the movie. I mean, they said there were earthquakes all across the world.
Yeah.
Like,
and with
that
all
would send everyone into, a frenzy.
Overdrive.
Yeah.
I felt like
go
with
ahead.
all of the ecological disasters they were leaning into, especially with global warming, and because the ice is thawing because of these people, these deviants are out, and yada yada yada. I totally thought she was turning him into ice.
Yeah, it looked kind of like that.
I totally expected that was going to be the MCU's way of, global warming isn't a thing here anymore. We are not ever going to have to deal with that in any of our movies ever.
Because we could just chip some ice off. We've got a
He's
massive
already
ice
in the
machine. It'll just cool it down. Yeah, no, I mean, it was just, yeah, I think that is something that really has to be addressed at some point in the near future, because this changes everything. Like, we've got to, like, even though it's not an active threat anymore, we've got to deal with this thing. Like, there was a living thing that formed the core of our planet, and now part of it is outside of the crust of the planet. And
I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I feel like this is now part and parcel for the people living in the MCU. It's like, oh, there was an alien on our planet. Okay, well, oh, what's that over there? Oh,
yeah, all the shit they've been through already.
Huh.
Okay, yeah,
kind of becomes normalized.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about the final scene then. So, speaking of. So, Thena, Druig, and Makari... Oh, also, just a quick word on Makari. I really liked the way they depicted her super speed in this, because typically what we've gotten with speedsters is it's like bullet time, like in the Matrix. The world slows down as they're moving, so they can depict how quickly they're moving that way. But in this one, they just said, no, we're going to depict the super speed in real time, and it was really impressive looking, and I really liked that.
Especially when she's like running around the world trying to find the location of the emergence.
Yeah,
And she's just like jumping between continents. That was sick.
Yeah, that was really cool.
I love that.
Yeah, so I wanted to give a shout out to that. So the three of them, they get in the Domo to go find other Eternals. And so Cersei, Phastos, Kingo, and Sprite all remain on Earth. Sprite is a human now. Cersei turned her into a human after the climax of the movie. So
does she still have her powers? We have yet to find out.
Probably not, because she's just
they said it goes away.
Yeah, okay. She's just like a normal human now. So, but
can't
Cersei,
be with us anymore.
Yeah, Cersei, Phastos, and Kingo are all still active, and so Cersei is, kind of meeting back up with Dane, and kind of, poor Dane. He's just trying to like have a conversation with his girlfriend about what's been going on with him. Like he has this whole very tiny subplot about what he's learning about his family lineage, and obviously that will play in more into things later on. But he can't even finish his sentence before, as you described, the clouds darken, something is clearly amiss, and then bang! It was a really cool reveal, because we haven't seen Arishem in a while. And be honest, by this point in the movie, you had forgotten that he was out there. At least I had. I had forgotten, like, I was so preoccupied with the climax that I had forgotten about Arishem. And then when he shows up, you're like, oh fuck, what the fuck, oh my god. Oh right, Arishem, hey buddy, how you doing? He like gravitates the three of them up to him from their various locations on the planet. And he's like, motherfuckers, what is the one thing I told you not to do? Kill the Celestial emerging from the center of the earth. And what was the one thing you did? Kill the Celestial emerging from the center of the earth.
You can bet your ass I'm not hiring you to babysit anymore.
I am not happy. All right, human race. Also, hi, by the way, I'm here. I'm this massive, like, I'm the size of like 3 Earths. Oh, all of your religions are wrong. It was me the whole time. And also everyone can hear this conversation that he's having with the Eternals. You get to live for now. I'm going to go have a conversation with these 3 superheroes you didn't even know existed. And if I don't like what they have to say, I'm going to come back and pretty much just squish you. Anyway, I'm going to take these 3. Peace. And then he pieces out. And it's like unbelievable. And this is how it leads to what you were saying. If you're a human being on this planet, like, that moment reminded me, it's unimaginably traumatizing to be a human being in the MCU who's just like a normal person who just is experiencing these events. Like, can you imagine just being a guy out for a walk on the street and you see this massive being, this bigger than the planet itself, speaking, and then like so massive that he's changing weather patterns, and then he's having a quick conversation, then he just leaves again. Like, I
just want to know, after those 30 seconds, how much do you think the quantity of shitted pants went up
like
from that one interaction?
Like, it's honestly, like, it's impossible to fathom what that must be like. But if you're just a regular person in the MCU, like my God, like, you've had alien invasions and attempted AI takeovers, and you had the whole thing with the dark dimension, or the dark world, and Thor: The Dark World, and you had obviously Thanos, and you've had a few alien invasions. You've had
Doctor Strange in the Dark Dimension.
The Dark Dimension, like, it's just too much. It's like, honestly,
you're just like, I just want to go to class and not fear for my life one day.
Like honestly, like, and all of this has just happened. This is like a couple, not even, I don't even know if it's a day after the events of the Indian Ocean. Like, it's just too much. Yeah. Like, honestly, like, can we just have a quiet week, please?
Arishem disappears, and everyone's just like, I kind of hope he just gives us a boot.
Yeah, honestly,
I hope he
he
just
does.
ends this planet. This
Yeah.
isn't too much. I'm tired.
We're noisy. We get too much. We gotta calm down a bit.
Yeah, honestly, like, and that's what I'm saying when I say it recontextualizes the entire MCU, because we're now operating on a scale which obviously, like, it was a big scale before, but now it's something else entirely. It's like
how do the grounded heroes respond to that? Like
how do we-
Falcon,
how do we
Falcon
3 weeks,
or Bucky, or like
how
do
do
they
we
deal with
3
that?
weeks after that do we go to Hawkeye series on Disney
The
Plus?
holiday special, yes.
Yeah, wait, is that even going to be brought up? Is that gonna be...
I guess we'll see.
Is Spider-Man going to talk about that? Or are
Why
they
should
claiming
he?
that
He's a spider.
Eternals takes place after that stuff happens?
Yeah.
Was it only the people of London saw Arishem in the
whole
sky?
planet.
No, I know you guys
guarantee you
have
the whole
not
planet.
yet. I know you guys have not yet seen the trailer for Spider-Man, so
Mm.
I have to imagine that people will be talking about it before Spider-Man, of the events of Spider-Man. I'll just say that.
Gotcha.
But I don't know what they're gonna do in Hawkeye. How am I supposed to care about the gang warfare and the bow and arrow boy when this guy's out in space just ruminating on whether or not we deserve to live?
He could come back at any time and just end the planet like that.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I think it would be more interesting if he didn't peace out and instead he just kind of like was floating there
around
in
thinking of it.
stasis, like going through all these memories, and you don't know how long it's gonna take for him to like go through all
Imagine-
these memories.
Can
So
you
he's just up
imagine?
there in the sky.
4
Like day
hours
after
a day,
day, it
you're in
becomes
an
more and
eclipse.
more normal.
Can you imagine? That would be
It's
insane.
like the sun, the moon. It's like astronomy classes are just like, yeah, we have the sun, the moon, Arishem, the usual.
Actually, the moon's gone now. He gravitated it away from our planet, so I think the tides
yeah,
are gone.
smacked the side of his head and disintegrated.
But seriously,
how many satellites do you think were destroyed?
God, being an astronomer
Arishem.
must suck in the MCU.
Yeah.
You've got aliens showing up out of nowhere. You've got celestials just appearing. NASA must have just lost trillions of dollars.
Oh,
Well, that's
yeah.
the thing, is it would be awesome to be an astronomer. Imagine all the photos you could get, all the
Yeah,
images.
you get the photo, but no one cares because it was in their backyard.
Yeah.
That's true.
The ISS circles the Earth every 90 minutes. What are the chances that, like, within the 30 seconds Arishem is there, that they cross paths?
The ISS looks
like,
out
Oh,
their
fuck.
window. They're like, "Huh." Houston,
Was
we
that
have a problem.
wall always there?
Yeah, Arishem is just wearing the ISS as an earring now. But that would be
He
insane.
pieces out and accidentally takes them with them.
but seriously though, that would be insane if in every outside daytime shot there was just a dormant Arishem just
God,
moving. That would
Right?
be insane.
in the middle of one of our later films, you just see the eyes suddenly glow again, and he's like, "Well,
Oh, that would be a great Easter egg. Is if in one random episode of whatever or one of the movies, you see his eyes start to go just a little bit, and then the next day they'll go a little bit more, and he's slowly coming back over each installment of the various Disney Plus shows and movies.
or it's on the whole time, then one day it just shuts off."
Oh my god. That would be that would
What's
seriously be
scarier?
terrifying because you wouldn't know what's the significance of that. Does that mean
Yeah.
he's getting close to his judgment, or
Or are we safe now? Can we get some guys with big hands to push him away? Will he not fight back?
yeah, could we maybe we can call in Galactus to be like a garbage man, just kind of move him.
Can we have
Hulk up
Doctor
there, punch him
Strange
up.
just open up a giant portal and just remove him?
Yeah, Doctor Strange can do that with anything. Why couldn't he do that with TMH?
Yeah,
Have him
you
emerge
could
elsewhere.
just stick Arishem in the mirror dimension.
Yeah.
That'll probably be fine.
Well, I'll tell you what. You know who we could call to clean up the Tiamat remains is well, them. Wrong studio, unfortunately. That would be a good crossover. We should call Sony, see if they're. Hey, they already have a working relationship. That's actually not so crazy. But what's his name? What's his name? Hold on. Sorry, I'm blanking on
Tony
his...
Stark and the damage control thing from?
Adrian Toomes.
Who?
His Adrian Toomes, Vulture from Spider-Man.
Okay, so you were thinking Vulture, but
yeah.
But now it's just marble. He doesn't care about that anymore. Literally every part of it is just marble.
Yeah, it's completely useless.
Yeah.
I got some white rocks here.
But he does have that damage control cleanup company, so at least it would be in his wheelhouse if he wasn't.
If he weren't in jail.
Yeah, if he wasn't in prison / Morbius. I don't know which is worse, honestly.
Oh my fucking god.
But so yeah. Anyway, so Tiamat's gone. So let's talk about the mid and post credit scenes to wrap up here. So Thena, Makari, and Druig.
Well, hold up. Can we save this one for last?
Okay, sure. Okay, so the post credit scene.
Wait, if we're saving it for last, I do want to briefly go over my rewrite, to see how you guys feel about it.